And very important, sir, you mentioned this IQ, EQ, and then you got this AQ. and and I think, yes, probably I would have not thought about it, a lot of people would have, but this AQ, IQ, EQ, leadership skills, technical skills, everything gets developed. Some or the other platforms are available. Would there be a skill to develop an AQ? And if yes, what would be that? Would be the books like this, or would be the workshop on the books like this? Because that's the ideal thing, that delta between the change and the adaptation that you mentioned. That's something which is there's so many companies ready with the fabulous vision 2030. But then what happens in 2030 if nothing happens in 2025, 26, 27? So there would be a course, then certainly that. And it cannot happen just at 1 2 3. That you also mentioned most vulnerables. So most vulnerable would also be part of that vision 2030. If I have to adapt, I have to implement, I have to reach that, or achieve that strategy or vision of 2020. So probably that one thing, whether we call it a fireside catch, is chat. And one more thing, and I think I understand that this is very close to your heart, that what was we were discussing, you use the word purpose. Now purpose is also equally important. It is not only that $100 billion of market cap that I have to be. Now how, what, where do I play, how do I play, and what is the larger purpose that I am playing, what and where and how also, that. So how does this percolate in a system at large, so that when we become a Viksit Bharat, it is not just a Viksit Bharat, it is a Viksit Bharat, it is a worthwhile a Viksit Bharat. It is not just achieving everybody has a car that they want to drive, or you have the best of the infrastructure there. So maybe this would be my thoughts on the questions, and we will open up sooner. You want to answer this, or we can take more questions?
I would like to
Yeah.
answer. Come. I don't. If you want to get a discussion on purpose, you can put it at a very academic level. But I want to give it a very practical level. The purpose is when you want to accomplish something which is bigger than yourself or your family or your business. And I'll give you an example because I've written a book on it, not on purpose, on HDFC. Mr. Hasmukh Parikh, who is the uncle of Deepak Parikh, was already the chairman of a bank. I forget which bank it was, Indian Bank or. And he is either retired or about to retire. So he must have been 55, 60 in those days. I'm talking of 1970s. And he said, now that I'm retiring, I have to think of where to stay. And he said, why should this be? I have worked my whole life honestly and decently. I have to now think. My father was the same. I'm sure many people here have such a similar experience in their families. So in the 60s, he said, I want to set up a company to enable a common person, he had some definition of common person, middle class, to own an apartment before they retire. It doesn't matter if it's a 2-bedroom house, but एक security आता है. Now, I call that purpose. I want to be in the building industry and make money. Fine. I'm not here to judge whether that's good or bad. But here is something that Hasmukh Bhai said. How can I set up a company when nobody is willing to lend money? जिसके पास asset है, उसको loan नहीं जरूरत है, और जिसके पास asset नहीं है, उसको loan की जरूरत है. How do I? And he came to an insight. I've written about this in the book that I've written. A very clever insight. He said the middle class woman is the key to the success. The man will take the loan and then he will, if he makes good money, he will finish it off in other forms. But the woman family izzat is very important. Middle class women's family izzat is what is my mortgage. And so they started giving loans initially 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, which is a lot of money in the 70s, by the way. And the woman said, आपका पैसा आपको हर महीना मिल जाएगा और हर साल मिल जाएगा. And now you see HDFC is India's largest bank. Deepak Bhai came and he took it forward. So that is purpose. I want to mention Jamshedji Tata because I am worked in Tata. Back in the 1800s, he said, India must get steel because the nation that has steel will rule the world. It's taken 100 years for India to become a steel making nation. Otherwise, even when I joined Tata's, nobody thought of India as a steel making company. Today we got JSW, uh, Tata's, many others. So purpose is something that takes a long time to come. Right. So I think of purpose as not dissimilar to getting married. You when you get married, you take a vow. We take it very lightly. We tell the panda, hurry up and finish with whatever you're saying. But you're making a promise that you will be with you. Each person makes the promise, I'll be with you till we die. And that's very, very hard to stay with the same person for 70 years. For both people, by the way, not just one way. But we all take that. In my Tamil system, when you turn 60, you take your marriage vow again. I don't know, you must be having an equivalent of that in Gujarati also. No? Well, you better start it. AMA can. At 60, and now next year I'll be 80, I'll take the vow again.
At your age of 60, not the 60th anniversary.
No, no, no. At the age of 60 of the man. And then at the age of 80, you take the vow again. After that, you don't have to take the vow. So if you're Rupert Murdoch or somebody, you can walk out on your wife after that. But most of us are not. So I think these are there are equivalents of that in other communities. I'm not saying my community is better or worse. So I think purpose of a business is like raising a child at home or getting married. It's a very serious exercise. And making money is like saying, I'm going to have fun and I'll have babies in the process. It doesn't work that way. So I hope the example of Hasmukh Parikh, I'll give you one more example. Kiran Mazumdar, who set up a company called Biocon. And she was never, although she's a Gujarati by DNA, they were not a business family. But a set of accidents, which also I've written in a book, she became a business person. And she entered a very narrow field. It's called solid state fermentation. Solid state fermentation is like making a very precision form of fermentation. All the people's training, their systems must be so precise. Otherwise, the fermentation won't happen. She mastered it. Then somebody came and said, what is your purpose? I'm dramatizing it a bit just to make it interesting. Hey, wo purpose kya hota hai? Do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? Ye sawal hai. You've become successful, you're worth something now, but you're a big fish in a very small pond because the solid state fermentation business market is only so much. And if you go to wet fermentation, which is a different technology, the market is so big. And she took the decision, I'm sure after a lot of strategy and thinking, that I will sell my business and enter wet fermentation. And now she's made a success of it, so she's worth a lot. Harsh Mariwala is the other way around. He entered a very big business because his family was king of coconut oil. But he said, ye kya yaar, 15 kilo mein, only Malayalis are eating this. Who will buy 15 kilos of coconut oil? Sorry, any Malayalis here? Apologies. Nothing wrong in eating coconut oil. He said, I want to make a small plastic bottle. Sabko sar pe lagana hai. It will be a smaller business. I'll be a big fish in a small pond. Exactly. So there are many ways to do it. But purpose is something you have to think about. And Mariwala is also very successful. Very successful. So if I was, luckily I'm not the president of AMA, I'd say I want AMA to always be doing at least one new thing every year. You're probably doing it anyway without defining it as a purpose or giving it a big name. And that's why you're an innovative, energetic LMA. Good luck.
We can open up for any questions.
Thanks. You've really been very provoking thought, and you kept it at a very macro level, and therefore, it sort of allows one to meander through the various ideas that you have presented. One is about very practical that today business is experiencing the pressures of climate change, then geopolitical risks. We have seen one of the biggest pandemics in the process, and then in addition to that, there is a wave of technological change, and many other small variants of where you are positioned geographically and in the industrial sector. So, to my mind, we are really at a place where a lot of changes are taking place in a relatively short period of time. So the traditional tools of change management, which looked at one particular aspect and developed a strategy for it and integrated it into the plan, may not be the best way because it has all interconnectedness to everything else. What I do in climate affects you, etc., etc. So if you want to see the tools that are going to be useful now, can we rely on a bunch of the old tools, or there is an emergence that you see of new tools and techniques to look at and the enterprise as a whole, given the changing environment?
That's a
Because
brilliant question, Sunil Bhai. I'm so happy you asked that question because a very perceptive question. Management needs to become homeopathic. It is now allopathic. If you go to an allopath, he is more and more specialized. I do surgery of the left shoulder, not the right shoulder. I can do surgery on your left ear, but not your right ear. It's very. But if you go to a homeopath, that person will ask you so many questions that look irrelevant. पेट में हजम होता है क्या, खट्टा लगता है कि मीठा अच्छा लगता है, because they are doing a whole body view. Management lacks that. Today we are teaching management across the road and in many such wonderful institutions. We've all benefited from it in allopathic fashion. Marketing, strategy, HR, and then students are also rewarded for class participation. मतलब दूसरों की बात नहीं सुनना है, अपना जबान खोलना है. So they will all put up their hand immediately and say Jack Welch is the biggest idiot. Mukesh Ambani, Ratan Tata, Gautam Adani, sab gadhe hain. Because the case study is giving the impression that they are all idiots. But they don't build up $100 billion empires by being an idiot. The plea that I'm making, and it's hidden in the book, that take a holistic view. And the holistic view that we have pointed out, and this is not the last word on the subject, the holistic view you're suggesting is you're too much focused on the left brain and thinking of what to do, what audacious goals to have, etc. Please think of the right brain also. And then you will get a more holistic view. But there'll be many other dimensions because when you use your right brain, the human part of it comes in. And financing comes in. We have the impression that long-lasting companies are very aggressive in finance. They borrow a lot. They're all dying one after the other. People who borrowed a lot. Borrowing is not a virtue. But how did you come to that conclusion? Because MBA finance courses taught you leveraged buyout. सब leverage करो. आपके पास ₹1 है तो ₹10 कैसे लेना है, ₹10 खर्चा भी करने का फिर और ₹10 लेना है. Actually, the long-lasting companies, Tata, Bajaj, Godrej, you look at them, they've all been conservative in financing. अपने औकात के अंदर रहो. So I think we are in need in management to rediscover a whole body treatment rather than parts treatment. And the book makes a plea for that. And in 200 pages, whatever you can tell, you're telling, but people will hopefully apply their mind. And that's why I'm encouraging, if AMA would like to conduct some program on holistic management, it would be a very good initiative on your part.
So I just wanted to ask that, considering the pace of change that Sunil sir also referred to, Singapore, for example, last year got a special budget in their government for upskilling people who are above 40 years. So if you are above 40 and if you want to go and learn at an institute, the government will fund or sponsor it. Now, assuming AMA can also play similar kind of rules and to drive these changes. So let's say one is to embrace the future, to anticipate it, and to be able to adapt it. And then second part is to let the team do it. How do you drive the team to also do it? As an entrepreneur, as a promoter, I know this is what the future looks like. But at the end of the day, the team has to align with that future. Now, what could be those tools, those workshops, those formats look like where you also align the team onto that same vision that your promoters are also seeing?
Also a very good question. In fact, there's a little coverage of this, though it's not exactly answering the question the way you asked it, but that's all right. The principal point is that you having a vision and adapting to the future is irrelevant. How do you share that, and how do you take into account their vision of the future? If they think nothing is changing, life will carry on, I'll work for the next 30 years, I'll happily retire with a little house in Navarangpura, then you having a vision doesn't make a difference. And I've taken two examples which are well known, but looking at the age of people here, they may not know the detail of it. Looking at my age, you will accept that I may have a perspective on it. You take the issue of national language. I'll take it not in a company level, but I'm taking it at a country level. In 1950 or 51, whenever they said Hindi will be the national language, and for 15 years, we'll give everybody time to adapt. So when I was a kid, I'm a Tamil born in Bengal, learning Hindi. Okay? I was sent to Rashtrabhasha Prachar Sabha, ye wo, to learn my Hindi. Come year 15, because when you say 15 saal ka adjustment time hai, like having chairman and managing director should be separate in corporate governance. It will happen after 3 years. Abhi dekh chodo yaar. 2 years and 9 months later, I'll start lobbying. Ye nahi chalega. Tamil Nadu went up in flames. Bangalore went up in flames. We all know. I think some of you may not know, but I want you to know. It literally went up in flames. And they said, we will not accept Hindi. But yet Hindi has become very widespread. It may not be the king's Hindi, may not be Modi ji's standard of Hindi. But even if you go to Tamil Nadu now, people will speak in Hindi. What has changed? How did it happen? Fatwa that it's in the constitution that Hindi is a national language? No. But without knowing, they did not do this. Raj Kapoor, Devanand, Ashok Kumar, they chased pretty girls around a tree singing songs. And whether you're from Tamil Nadu or from Kashmir, the idea of chasing a pretty girl around a tree with a song on your lips is always appealing. Hindi went. And Hindi is much better understood. When I was growing up in Calcutta, my Bengali friends say, Ami Hindi Jani. And you ask them what to say a few words, they'll say, Hum bhapta isko lukiye dega. Now, only a Bengali will understand that kind of Hindi. No other person will understand. Hum bhapta isko lukiye dega. Today they speak Hindi. And the magic has happened because it's come up from the grassroots. I went to a place in Tamil Nadu. You can't even pronounce it. Tiruthirapundi. You try saying it once, say. And they were watching Kaun Banega Karodpati. So I told him in Tamil, I said, what is this you're watching, Kaun Banega Karodpati? Do you understand what's going on? He said, Enna sir. I'll translate it in English so that you understand. He said, Enna sir, what is there? When 1 crore is involved, how does it matter which language it is in? Sun lega, chalega. So this gives you the right answer to your question in a practical way, that you must let it seep down and bubble up rather than push it from the top. I'll give you one more example, which is a fantastic story in my opinion in India, family planning. Back in the 50s, we figured out we can't carry on with 3.5% population growth. So they said, Sabko bolo, they must have less children. So the DAVP made an advertisement which said, handsome boy, pretty girl, garlands, मुबारक हो शादी हो गया है अभी 5 साल के लिए बच्चे नहीं पैदा करना. Okay, I remember that campaign very well because I was just coming into college. Now, the truth of Indian society is, if the daughter-in-law is not produced for 5 years, there will be kayamat. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, everybody will be inquiring, even today, but definitely 50 years ago. Nothing happened. Population growth rate continued. Then they thought, we are not training our people, we are not upskilling the people. Use the modern words, you know. Arey, kya upskill? You know, you had condoms and then you brought other forms, pills, this, that. Somebody said, you know, maybe we have not addressed the soft side. I'm imagining the conversation. I wasn't sitting there. How can you expect a little girl who's 25 years old to survive 5 years without producing a baby? So they changed the campaign. They now had a young man, handsome boy, pretty girl with a little child in their arms. मुबारक हो पहला बच्चा हुआ, दूसरा बच्चे के लिए 5 साल छोड़ो. Now I'm going to make it dramatic. It worked. The fact of the matter is, from 3.7%, we have come down to 2.2% today. And if you leave out a few states in Madhya Bharat, most of us are at approximately replacement rate. But it's taken 50 years. So when you embrace the future, when you look for transformation, it has a very long cycle. Hindi did not, if you said, I want in 5 years national language, Hindi, you would have got this country in flames. If you said, we must bring the population, China did it. They brought population from there to there. But that technique won't work here. Sanjay Gandhi tried it for a short while. It didn't work. So you have to allow time. And it is evolutionary rather than by force. It is by diffusion. And then you will get people joining you. It's not surprising. Nobody is saying you want Viksit Bharat by 2029. I mean, if you said it also, nobody is going to believe you. 2047 is a safe date because none of us will be around, or many of us won't be around. And then wo dekha jayega.
We can take a question or two.
So it was a very nice and insightful session, which was very new learnings, which were being taught you by you and all. So my question is that, see, the industrialists of Gujarat, majorly the Ambanis and Adanis, their working styles, yeah, so the work patterns of these bigger industrialists and businessmen like these Ambanis and Adanis, they are different from these traditional entrepreneurs like me also, which I'm running a small business. So the people management issues like conflict resolution and conflict management of making them working like a common pattern of styles and aligning the visions. So how to make them work with a common vision and in such a way that a small business at a one gradual scale it becomes a large conglomerate starting from till 10-15 years to scaling level, which is not gradually coming down to a zero level. So according to you, how we should work and how in order to make and sustain ourselves to become a bigger conglomerate? Like,
Let me repeat your question so that I'm answering the right question. Your question is not about Ambani and Adani.
yeah,
Your question is, if I'm a small business, how can I scale myself up so that I can be a successful business? Correct?
yeah.
Okay.
How they do these Ambanis, Adanis align their vision with the people at large in their organization?
I don't know how Ambani and Adani does it. If AMA can invite Mukesh Bhai, he can come and explain to you. If you look at companies, and I've been very fortunate, I've worked in two companies. One is 90 years old, one is 130 years old. So, लंबे आयु के क्या राज है इस पे मैंने जरा सोचा है. My next book is coming in August on Jamshedji Tata, how he created a long life company. But you can say the same of Bajaj or Godrej. You know, there are also other long life companies. It is very tough to create a company. It is very tough to create a company with purpose. It is very tough to create a company which holds its purpose for 100 years. So it is like saying it's very tough to have a baby because there's lots of pain and this, and it's very tough to raise a baby to be an adult. But it's very tough to keep that baby's baby also coming. All of us have this in our own personal lives, and we know that many people lose their way. And my approach has been to study long life companies. You know, when you want to find हमारी आयु लंबी कैसे होनी है, people go and study Japanese in Honshu Island lived till 130. And then they'll find that he has a small whiskey every evening. They'll say, "Sab log whiskey piyo to tum." It's not a cause and effect. Everybody starts drinking one whiskey, then your life will come down, it won't go up. But they look at the package of practices that they eat grain, they eat protein, they eat this, they do exercise, they have good social conditions, etc. And then they'll write a book called Ikigai. Have you read this book, Ikigai? It is like Ayurveda, one of ours. And there is an Ikigai or an Ayurveda for companies also. If you want, I'll send you some of my articles on that, if it's helpful to you. But it has nothing to do with Ambani or Adani. मैं अपने औकात पे रहता हूँ, वहां नहीं जाता हूँ. समझ गया ना? But they are conservative in financing. They have a very sharp sense of purpose and identity. They are very consistent. And they run an ethical business. ब्रह्म मंत्र दे दिया आपको आज. अभी आप बनाइए कंपनी.
They stop eating when they're 80% full. The Ikigai.
That is called Hara Hachibu.
So I think thank you, sir. Certainly, it was a wonderful session. Lot to learn. Very keen and very keen to read the book. That we have books available outside also. Sir's book. Any question, of course, anything can be taken up offline, or you can communicate with us or sir. We will try to get his inputs on. But once again, sir, thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure to interact with you, to have your insights, and certainly the book will be very helpful, useful for everybody in and outside the industry also. So thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks on the people who are on the YouTube live. And we look forward to launching one more 20th book also whenever, sir. Thank you. You can.